I have the privilege of sharing with you about freedom today, because tomorrow is the 4th of July, and that is a day when Americans celebrate their independence. And what were we celebrating? What are we celebrating? Apparently, about 245 years ago or so, we declared our independence from things like the monarchy, imposed class issues, limited opportunities, fewer choices in terms of religion and the freedom of speech, something like that. And what did we claim? What did we pledge our allegiance to at that time? We started something new. Our ancestors started something new that was more inclusive, that allowed the access to opportunity to more people in ways that hadn't been open before, to the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, to the freedom to conceptualize and realize new dreams. So how are we doing with that? How are we doing with that so far? Well, there's a little bit of the Declaration of Independence that I'm going to share with you this morning, and we'll ask that question again. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Are you alive? Yes. Are you free? I think so. Are you pursuing your happiness? I'd say possibly, because you're here. And do you know, sometimes we forget it, but there are people all over the world who don't have these freedoms. So when I ask again, is it working? I think we can all say yes, a little bit more than we might have about a minute ago. This theme for July is accepting the gifts of Spirit. Accepting all of the gifts that are laid at our feet by our very birthright. Are you getting that? Even if you say, well, I'm not so sure. Can you think of a gift that you've received in life that you can be grateful for right now? Is there a gift that you've received in life that reminds you that those gifts are at your feet, that they're present and available? Maybe they're on their front doorstep, all wrapped up, and all you need to do is remember that and untie the bow. Is it possible that in dwelling on that for a moment, you can realize that there are probably more gifts yet to be received by you? Maybe the ones that you can't see, you'll be able to see a little better now. In the teachings of Abraham, a cousin, you could say, in this day and age, in the movie The Secret, we're told, ask and it is given. Number one, we ask. Number two, we acknowledge that it is given. And number three, what are we supposed to do? Receive. Many of us will say, yeah, I read the book, I saw the movie, I've taken a whole bunch of classes on similar stuff at Centers for Spiritual Living and Unity churches and a whole bunch of other places. And yet I don't see my gifts. I don't see the ones that I want to have. I know I'm free. I know that it's possible, but I don't see them. I'm not experiencing them. It's okay to admit when we're in a place like that, which is why we have places like this. Because if we had it all figured out, we'd probably be somewhere else. The deal in coming to this experience we call life is that we agree to forget all the stuff we know. And then we have the freedom to discover it along the way of living. It is by discovering it that we know we're truly free. Okay. So just maybe there are more gifts on our respective doorsteps than we've realized. Maybe what we need to do is learn how to open them. Well, there's some great teachings in this teaching, this philosophy, this, some call it religion, but not all, this way of life on freedom. And there's a real correspondence between freedom and getting those gifts. There's a real correspondence between being free and being able to receive and actually open those gifts. Because we're told by many wise people throughout the ages that the gift has already been given. That the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And you might say, well, which hand? Is it this hand? Is it this one? Is it yours? Is it yours? Whose hand is this gift in? I want to know. Well, of course, there are many other fables and teachings that say that it was hidden in the one place we never look, which for each of us is right here. So, apparently, there's a reason for these things being hidden. There's a reason for these things not being known the moment we arrive. I remember speaking on this topic a little over a year ago at a Wednesday service. And I said, okay, truly, if I walked up to you and I put my hands on my hips and I said, I know everything, would you like me? Would you invite me in? Maybe not. We are born knowing everything, but not knowing that we know. We are born with the gift, truly, that we are made in the image and in the likeness and out of something infinitely wise and loving and abundant and alive and powerful and energized and animated and so much more. But if we were born knowing how to walk, knowing how to speak, knowing the answer to every question, would we be free? No. Would we really be alive? I don't think so. We might be equal, but not in a very interesting kind of way. Would we be happy? I don't know. A lot of people throughout the ages have said that this contrast between the knowing and the not knowing, and the having and the not having, and the delicious friction of discovering and becoming is what's required of us. To be able to have an appreciation for, the ability to see, to hear, to open to, and to embody and experience these gifts. I don't think I would want to be born an automaton with everything already programmed. Think about it. If you were a robot or a fembot or a whatever bot. I have another Austin Powers thing coming up later. Well, okay, so you'd probably be run by a computer program that runs on binary code, which is very dualistic, by the way. Everything would be black or white, yes or no, according to something else. But it'd be automatic. And you wouldn't really be free. Yes, you might be equal. You wouldn't really be alive. Yes, you might be, standing here. I very much doubt that any one of us would be happy. Because happiness is something that comes from truly experiencing reality. So Ernest Holmes, who's this guy who, what did he do? He grew up in Maine on a dairy farm. I think he left school before he graduated from high school. He might have the equivalent of a GED at this point. He was a voracious reader. He studied, let's see if I can say this, Sri Aurobindo. How to do it?
Perfect.
Excellent. Okay. great guy back in this time, Phineas Quimby, many others. This whole New Thought movement, by the way, comes out of that freedom. That freedom to come somewhere new and study not just the teachings of the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, but also to be free to recognize that other people from other cultures and faiths, with their fables, their myths, their allegories, have been seeing the same thing. We've been free to discover the universality in those things. So out of that came the New Thought movement. Divine science, religious science, that's what we do here, by the way, unity, and many more. Christian science. All cousins in this emergence. So Ernest Holmes is this guy who created this teaching called the Science of Mind and Spirit, by the way. That's the full name. Mind and Spirit. And he said that there are two things that we need to know in order to trade in bondage for freedom. Two things. One is how freedom operates, the conditions of freedom. And the other one is the laws of life. So the first thing is about the conditions of freedom. And that gets back to a little bit of what I've already said, actually. The conditions of freedom are, okay, Spirit is infinite. It made us in its image and likeness, and it has laid out this banquet and this bounty before us. All that we require and more than enough to have and to use and to share. It's all there. And like Mark Twain has said in some of his interesting writings, it's constantly renewing itself. Every time you take something away, more pops up. Loaves and fishes. All of these stories of the self-renewingness of Spirit say that it is infinite. Okay, so that's the gift. That's the gift that's been given. But if we were automatic, we would not be individuals. If everything was decided and provided for us, we would not be free. So we get to. Ever hear this? Some people take that, what is it, life something training. Anybody remember that? Okay. So anyway, you change your I can't or I have to I get to. We get to discover the laws of life and our freedom and our perfection along the way because we are free. We get to try something that doesn't work and in the process discover what does work. Okay? So that's the lesson plan. These two things, to understand the conditions of freedom, which are that we must be free to choose in order to be individuals, in order to be happy and joyous and free, truly. And in the process of discovering our perfection, we will discover the laws of life. And that all of our suffering, our bondage, our misery comes from not knowing those laws. That sounds pretty heavy. So let's lighten it up a little bit. Back to Austin Powers. How many people have seen that movie? Okay, so Austin Powers is trying to make a speedy getaway in a narrow hallway. Okay, here's the hallway. And he hops in this little golf cart. And he turns it on. And he goes, like, 95 times. And if you watched it, you were probably laughing your head off. I watched the second one with laryngitis, and it was really funny to have no voice for that. So anyway, what's happening? He really wants to get somewhere. He got in the vehicle, but the problem is the relationship between the vehicle and the passageway is not working because of natural laws. The turning radius of the golf cart isn't very good either. Okay? Now, of course, he makes fun of this, which is excellent. Because what do? Have you ever gotten mad at the vacuum cleaner, maybe the hose or the canister, because it just doesn't come around the corner by itself? Yeah. You ever gotten mad at your seatbelt or the refrigerator door? Okay, you're going to work or school in the morning, and you have an armload of books and a bag or two and a cup of coffee and your keys. And you're mad because what? Well, first of all, were you honest with yourself about time? Okay. How about space? Probably not. How about, well, I can cut corners, I can defy all of these laws. I can somehow carry all of this stuff, be 5 minutes late, turn my key in the door without spilling my coffee. I did that once. I spilled my coffee in my purse on my phone. And then I had to trade my phone in. Okay, so what? I am free to discover all of that. How about earlier in my life? I didn't realize that if I got up and raced out the door and went somewhere for a morning gathering and had 2 or 3 cups of coffee and nothing to eat, that I would be in trouble by the time I had to go to work. And I got this big emergency. I would get speeding tickets. I'll just out myself a bit. I get speeding tickets on the way to an AA meeting because I forgot to eat breakfast. So the truth is that in real life, we are free to do what? Discover how it works. And to the degree that we understand how it works, we get to have the gifts. I now know how long it takes me to get up and to wake up and maybe to do some reading and a little bit of prayer, to eat breakfast, to shower and get dressed, and drive here. Get to the car with everything I need, turn the key in the lock, all that important stuff. And get here with time to spare. And I will tell you that time to spare was a foreign concept for me. This teaching shows us, when you first arrive and someone says, "Oh no, honey, life is not happening to you, it's happening through you," and you want to throw something. But the same truth is the thing that sets us free. Another thing that I was thinking about this morning is, okay, you say, fine, all right, I've read these books, I've taken these classes, there's the big old banquet with all of the chairs around it. What if I spend all my time talking about that dang banquet, saying, yeah, those people who sit at the banquet, they've got it all, but I'm different, I'm unique. I don't have a seat at that table. So what do? I condemn the banquet. I condemn the people who sit at it. I say there's no seat for me. Maybe I envy them, secretly envy them, for how easy their lives are and how much good stuff they have that I don't have. What if right behind me, there's my empty seat? What if I would turn my head a little bit, I might discover my seat at that banquet. The thing is, this gift, it is not like musical chairs. In musical chairs, there's always at least one less chair than there are people. That's limited. And when the music stops, you better scramble or you're going to be left standing, right, without a seat. That's not what this is like. There are more than enough chairs for everyone. There is more than enough at that ever self-renewing banquet for everyone. There's more than enough of everything. And if you're not experiencing it yet, it's okay. Because you're right where you're supposed to be in this game called life. We're here to learn together. Do you know what the cool thing is? That I am free to discover something and then allow it to help me in my life. But also, if you ask me, not just because I think I should tell you, but if you ask me, I can share with you what I discovered and maybe shorten your learning curve a little bit. We get to help each other out. So the deal is this. All we need to know to accept the gifts, to receive the gifts, to declare our independence from bondage, and to pledge our allegiance to our freedom, to recognize and claim our equality, to live, to be truly free, to be happy, and so much more, is to understand that because we are free, no one else can or should ever do it for us. Anything. Yet, everything that we need and everything we need to know about how it works is available to us. We are so blessed at this point in humanity because we can walk over to that corner, and even if you just look at one book, there's someone who's figured out something about the laws of life and offered it up freely for you to check out. So it'll be easier for you to recognize when you're experiencing it. And the same thing that applies to the basics of getting ready to go out the door, of being truly prepared for your day, nourished and dressed and centered so you can learn or perform a task at work or be present in a relationship. That same stuff is true about the unopened gifts, about the unrealized dreams. So, the same things that we learn about the basics can guide us in being successful in discovering and receiving and saying yes to and opening those other gifts. If there's not as much love in your heart as you would like, use these tips. If there's not as much money in the bank as you would like, use these tips. If too many of your dreams are on the shelf unrealized, use these tips. They will work for you. We call them laws because you can use them and get a predictable outcome every time. It's the same as math. It's the same as gravity. Anybody ever been on a fire walk or done a board-breaking thing? Okay, oh good, I have one hand up. Yeah. Two, yeah. Sometimes you can even go to a workshop or a seminar where you do something that's supposed to be impossible, just to show you that it's all up here. Okay? So I invite you to do something today. I invite you to recognize, first of all, that you're so free, you get to come somewhere like this, no matter the color of your skin, the country of your origin, the nature of your faith or your belief. You get to come here. That's a gift. And the next thing is that in declaring our independence from bondage, you and me, we can pledge allegiance to that freedom by dedicating ourselves to understanding how freedom really works and saying thank you for it every day. And each time we break a law, we don't get a ticket. Instead, we get a broken shoelace. I've broken a couple of toes trying to do things that are not possible with my feet. It's okay. Because the other thing we always get is another chance. So I'd like to have you join me in a closing prayer. If you take a moment and close your eyes. I just acknowledge how grateful I am to be a witness with each of you to the presence of infinite intelligence, boundless, overflowing love, perfect, pure spiritual substance, and immutable power. How grateful I am to recognize with each of you that we are made in the image and likeness of this, out of it, and there is nothing else that we can be or do or have or encounter or experience. And so I give thanks as this shows up, as clarity and surety in our thoughts. I give thanks as it shows up is a fullness of love in our hearts, overflowing with more than enough to have and to use and to share. I give thanks as it shows up as bounty and abundance and richness everywhere we look. I give thanks as it shows up as eternal life, power, energy, animation. I know that it guides us in every good way, and that anything unlike it is false. Therefore, I recognize that we are free. I recognize that in acknowledging how freedom works, we realize our perfection more and more and more, and we have more to celebrate, more to share every day. I give thanks and know that this truth permeates each of our lives, and that it shifts those of everyone with whom we come in contact, and that together we learn how to use these tools which improve our lives and to make a world that works for everyone. In great gratitude, I release my word, knowing that it is already done, as we open our eyes and say together, and so it is.